Hi everybody, my name is Gabe, and I'm being interviewed today online by the EdinburghFringe.com. You should check them out and follow them at Fringe Edinburgh on Twitter and on Instagram, the Edinburgh Fringe.com. They followed me, I followed them back because I'm a generous romantic partner, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I'm Gabe, I'm from New York. We're in my office right now in New York City. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my Edinburgh Fringe stand-up show. So it's called Gabe Mollica, the whole thing, and it's my Fringe debut. And the show is about how 5 years ago I moved to Edinburgh, Scotland to teach at George Watson's College in Edinburgh, and then the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me, and the next day I started to do stand-up comedy, and it did not go well. And the show is sort of the accumulation of 5 years later. I've come back and I'm like almost a real comedian. And this is my first Edinburgh show. So the show is about that hidden, most embarrassing thing, plus a bunch of stories from my childhood and jokes about everything from yo-yos to food to relationships. And I think you're going to have a lot of fun. I think it'll be great for anybody that's from Edinburgh, that's not from Edinburgh, that's first time in Edinburgh, whatever it is. I think there's something for you. It's very personal. I overshare a lot, but it's very joke heavy, at least I hope. So come check it out. That's my pitch. So I'm going to have some other questions for you guys that I've been asked to answer, and we'll keep doing it. So what is the top reason to see your show? The top reason is that it's really, I worked really hard at it. It's the thing, it was my goal in comedy since I started 5 years ago to bring a show to the Fringe. So it's always been my goal. I didn't just like throw together a bunch of material. It's something that I've put a lot of thought into and tried to do in preview shows. And sort of every time I perform, I'm working on some bit or piece of this show. So I think you're going to have a lot of fun, and we can hang out after. I'm not going to just go to bed. I'm going to hang out. What does a successful Fringe run mean to me? Well, I just want you to show up and laugh and have a good time. That's my goal. So as many people I can get to do that as possible, that's perfect. In New York, where I perform, I performed for 3 people, and it's been amazing. And I performed for 80 people, and it's been not good, where they talk the whole time at a comedy club. So really doesn't matter the size of the audience. 20 people a night would be great. But as long as people watch the show and tell friends about it, it'll be a successful Fringe run for me. That being said, audiences larger than 3 would be ideal. What are top 3 tips I have for Edinburgh Fringe first-timers? Well, I have lived and done comedy in Edinburgh, but this is my first Fringe festival. But when I started in comedy 5 years ago in Edinburgh, I performed at the Edinburgh Stand, the Glasgow Stand, Strathclyde University. I hosted a big fundraising night for them. The University of Edinburgh, the Yes Bar in Glasgow, and I did a set at the Glasgow International Comedy Festival, all within my first year of doing stand-up. So now that I'm coming back, it'll be nice to maybe try to perform at those places again, see some old friends. But if you're in Edinburgh for the first time, I mean, I'm an American. I really like The Elephant House, of course. Harry Potter book was the first one was written. In America, it's The Sorcerer's Stone. I think you guys call it The Philosopher's Stone. But ours is better because there's more freedom, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. The next question says, Gabe, you're from New York. I am. New York is a huge comedy scene. Does that help or hinder you as you were starting out? Did it help or hinder? So when I first moved back to New York, the cool thing is that there's a lot of opportunities to perform. I do about 25 performances a month. That's sort of my goal, and that's what I do every month. If I can get there, I know I've had like a pretty successful month. I know people in New York that do it 2 times a week and say that they're comedians, and I know people that do it 40 times a week, and because of the availability to do it so much in New York. For me, 25 a month is sort of like my sweet spot, but unlike other cities, you can just get up more and get more stage time, and that's how you get better. So that's probably the best thing. That being said, in other cities, open mics in other cities in America, and my experience in Scotland too, is that people are there for a show, where open mics in New York City, less so. But really, a good show in New York City, there's sort of nothing like it. So yeah, it's an advantage in some ways, and in other ways, it was cool for me to start in Scotland and then come to New York to see how I actually didn't have any material when I was living in Scotland, and I had to sort of start over, like everybody does. Let's see. Question 6 is, what's with the rice cakes? Will you transition to oat cakes when you're in Scotland? So the name of my show is Gabe Mollica, the whole thing, and then the tagline is a true story of love, comedy, and rice cakes. I just have a couple jokes about rice cakes. I think they're a funny, stupid thing to talk about because they're not good, and it's fun to make fun of them, I guess. Will you transition to oat cakes when you're in Scotland? I don't know what oat cakes are, okay? I admit it. So will I transition to oat cakes? I don't know. You tell me. When I'm doing the rice cake jokes, will you understand them? I don't know. That's something I'll have to learn as I go. I've also realized that there's a lot of there's not a lot. There's some references in my show to things that only Americans might know, and I think those are things that I'm going to learn as I do the show. Oh, did you guys not understand what I was talking about there? So in small ways, certainly not in big ways, but in small ways, I think the show will change and evolve as I learn what audiences in the UK know for sure as a reference and what they might not know. And I'd love to add at least a couple minutes about Scotland while I'm there to the show, even though it's pretty jam-packed with stuff I want to get to. Question number 7. What is the funniest thing that has happened to you as a New York comedian? I mean, just all the time you see, it's not so much as a comedian, it's just walking down the street in New York, you're liable to see anything. I one time did an open mic with the parents of an SNL cast member. They were just like, our son does comedy. And I was like, oh yeah, where? And they were like, oh, Saturday Night Live. So that was sort of wild. Yeah, that was probably the kookiest. And then just people who were unfit for the stage always get the microphone. But there's a story in my show about the first time I did comedy, and I was drunk in Scotland. So perhaps I'm not the right person to be making fun of people who are unfit for the stage, because my birth into comedy was so unflattering. Let's see. Question 8. To hand out flyers on the Royal Mile or not hand out flyers, what's the top tip to create a buzz once in Edinburgh? So again, this is my first Edinburgh Fringe, but I mean, I've talked to a ton of people who say just pass out flyers near your theater, find a show that's similar to mine, or a comedian that I like or think might be similar in some way, and pass out flyers maybe after their show in a reasonable, safe proximity. That probably won't mean the Royal Mile. I've been in Edinburgh during the festival, and the Royal Mile is, to use a Scottish phrase, an absolute rammy. I don't know if people say that, but I worked with a guy in Scotland who said that one time, and it made me laugh. Let's see. So that's what I'll be doing for promotion. And, I mean, when this gets 1 million views, I'll have 1 million people to come see my show. So I think this is the only promotion that I'll do. Who needs flyers? When you have the EdinburghFringe.com, follow them on Twitter and Instagram. How are you promoting your show to the run up to the Fringe? Okay, yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Gabe Mollica. You can follow me on Instagram at Gabe Mollica. I'm trying to get in touch with more press. So if you see this and you think, oh, my friend works at I don't know, The Guardian. He would love Gabe's show about heartbreak and becoming a comedian and embarrassing childhood stories from a moderately handsome American guy. Of course, I'll share it with that person. So really, I'm sure my main promotional technique is hoping one of you guys has a famous friend, I guess. I don't know. Who's watching this? Lastly, do you want to tell us where and when we can see the show? Absolutely. I'm already in the Edinburgh app, so you can find me, Gabe. I'm the only Gabe so far. So Gabe Mollica. In the Edinburgh app, you can find the show Gabe Mollica, the whole thing. I'm doing it through Just the Tonic, which is a stand-up comedy venue. They have venues all over Edinburgh. Mine is at the Mash House, And the room is the Snifter Room at 11:15 p.m., 23:15, as you guys would say. So it's the Snifter Room in the Mash House. It's venue 288. Come check it out. It's right in the heart of Edinburgh. And it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really meaningful. I'm very excited to go back because I had a rough time last time I was in Edinburgh. I was very alone, and so alone that I became a stand-up comedian, which I just wouldn't recommend. But when the most embarrassing thing happens to you, you sort of have no choice but to comedy. And that's what I'm going to come back to Edinburgh to do. So thanks for bearing with me in this interview. I'd be glad to meet you, and we'll have some sticky toffee pudding or something in Edinburgh. Bye.